Hello there, and welcome to the Sleepy Science Secrets. Tonight, we are going to explore something so quietly wonderful that it might gently change the way you see yourself forever. Right now, as you rest, as your breath slows, and your body settles into the soft weight of the night, you're glowing. Not in a way anyone could see with the naked eye, not in any dramatic or startling way, but gently, softly, steadily. Your body is producing light, real light, a faint, living luminescence born from the simple, beautiful chemistry happening inside every single one of your cells. You are, in the most literal and tender sense of the word, a glowing creature. And tonight, we are going to drift together through the warm, quiet science of why. Let yourself breathe for a moment. Feel the weight of your body where it rests. Let your shoulders soften. Let your hands open slowly, like leaves that have finished their work for the day and are simply settling. There is nothing you need to do tonight except listen and let these gentle ideas carry you somewhere peaceful and still. There is a word scientists use, biophoton, and it sounds almost like something from a lullaby. Bio meaning life, photon meaning the smallest possible piece of light. A biophoton is a single tiny particle of light released by a living cell as it goes about its quiet work. Your body releases these little sparks constantly, not in bursts or flashes, but in a slow, continuous whisper, like the way starlight arrives across enormous distances, steady and unhurried, crossing the dark without effort. Right now, your cells are releasing biophotons. They always are. They have been doing this since the very first moment you were alive. The light your body produces is almost unimaginably faint. It is roughly 1,000 times weaker than anything your eyes could detect in a dark room, even after your eyes have had time to adjust to the darkness. If you were to stand in a perfectly lightless space and someone were to watch you with a camera sensitive enough to catch a single photon at a time, the kind of camera scientists use to study the farthest reaches of space, they would see you glowing, a soft, shifting shimmer along your skin, and it would be real. It would be you. The study of this glow has a long and quietly fascinating history. It was first properly observed and studied in the early 20th century at a time when the tools for detecting such faint light were barely beginning to exist. Scientists of that era were working at the edge of what was technically possible, reaching for measurements their instruments could only barely achieve. And yet, they persisted, because what they were looking for was too important, too fundamental, to leave unexplored. This glow was examined systematically in the 1920s by a Russian scientist named Alexander Gurich, who called it mitogenetic radiation. He was a careful and patient man, as the best scientists often are, and he believed that cells used this light to communicate with each other, to send signals across the small but significant distances between them. He designed an elegant experiment in which he placed two onion roots near each other, separated by a quartz window that allowed light to pass through, and found that one root seemed to stimulate the growth of the other. It was a small, delicate experiment, full of the kind of careful attention that science requires. The world was not quite ready to understand it fully, but he had caught a glimpse of something real. The science of biophotons was quiet for decades after that, like a seed resting underground through a long winter, gathering its strength for the right season. Then, slowly, carefully, it began to grow again. Researchers in Japan in the 1970s and 1980s began developing cameras sensitive enough to actually detect and photograph the light coming from living human skin. They placed volunteers in completely darkened rooms for extended periods of time, long enough for their eyes to adjust to the darkness, long enough for the camera to gather those faintest of signals, accumulating photon by photon into something the instruments could record. And there it was, a soft glow rising from the surface of the skin, most visible along the face and the hands and the upper body. What they found was not a uniform glow like a lamp turned on inside a box. It was more subtle than that, more alive. Different parts of the body glowed differently. The face seemed to produce more light than many other areas. Some parts of the skin shimmered a little more than others, in patterns that shifted and changed across the hours of the day. The light was alive in the truest sense because it came from living processes. It breathed with the body. It moved with time. If you like, you might close your eyes for just a moment now. Imagine your own body not as something heavy or tired, not as something that has carried the weight of the day, but as something quietly radiant. A soft luminescence, too gentle to see, rising from your skin the way warmth rises from the earth in the last light of an afternoon. You do not have to do anything to make this happen. It is simply what you are. You have always been this. You are already glowing. The light is produced mainly by something scientists call oxidative metabolism. This is the same essential process that allows your cells to turn the food you eat into the energy you need. The energy to think, to breathe, to move your hands, to feel warmth, to dream. When molecules inside your cells react with oxygen, small amounts of energy are released. Most of that energy goes into powering the work of the cell, moving things from one place to another, building the complex structures that cells need to function, sending signals along pathways too small and too numerous to count. But a tiny fraction of that energy, a whisper of it, escapes as light. It is almost like the way a candle releases light as it burns, not as its primary purpose, but as a natural and beautiful consequence of the process. Except the candle is your own living tissue, and the flame is the quiet chemistry of simply being alive. The molecules most directly involved in producing biophotons include what are called reactive oxygen species. These are small energetic molecules that form as a natural byproduct of the cell's energy-making work. They are created, they react with other molecules, and then they return to a lower energy state. And when they do, when that small burst of energy is released, some of it becomes a photon. A single, tiny, real particle of light. It happens in a fraction of a second. It happens across trillions of cells. It happens all the time. The result is a continuous, ultra-faint glow that has accompanied every living moment of your life. Lipids, the fatty molecules that form the membrane surrounding your cells, also play a role in biophoton production. As lipids are processed and broken down inside the cell, as they are moved and transformed in the course of the cell's daily and nightly work, they can release small flashes of light. Proteins, too, can contribute. The entire soft, intricate architecture of the cell, as it goes about its endless tasks, participates in this slow and gentle luminescence. It is not one thing producing the light. It is everything. The whole cell, glowing because it is alive. If you have ever watched the surface of the ocean at night, in a place far enough from the city lights, in a warm season when the water carries tiny bioluminescent organisms, you might have seen something a little like this. A blue-green shimmer in the waves, sparked by the chemistry of countless living things too small to see. Your body's light is far fainter than that, incomparably so, but it comes from the same essential miracle, the fact that the chemistry of life, as it goes about its work, finds its way to light. Life and light are old companions. They have been together for billions of years. The intensity of your glow is not constant. It shifts and changes throughout the course of each day, following rhythms that are older than memory. Researchers found, to their quiet delight, that the body's biophoton emissions follow a daily pattern, rising and falling with a regularity that mirrors the arc of the sun, even when the person being studied is in a room without windows, with no way of knowing whether it is morning or afternoon outside. In the early hours of the day, the glow tends to be a little higher. In the mid-afternoon, it shifts and peaks in certain regions of the skin. By evening, as the body begins its long preparations for rest, the light softens and settles. Right now, as you lie here in the quiet dark, your glow is in one of its most peaceful phases. It is the glow of a body winding down, turning inward, preparing for the deep repair of sleep. This daily rhythm of light suggests something beautiful, that your body knows what time it is, down to the level of its individual cells. The circadian rhythm, the internal clock that governs when you feel alert, when you feel tired, when you are hungry, when you dream, is not just a feature of the brain or the sleep centers. It is written into the chemistry of every cell in your body. And part of that chemistry, scientists are beginning to understand, involves the production of light. You're not simply a creature that responds to the rhythm of day and night. You carry that rhythm inside yourself, and you glow with it. The light you produce is, in some quiet way, a clock, a soft, living record of where you are in the turning of the day. Different tissues glow with different intensities. The skin, as the outermost layer of the body, is where most of the biophotons make their way into the world. But the light originates deep inside the cells, in structures called mitochondria, those small, ancient, endlessly busy organelles that are responsible for producing most of the cell's energy. The mitochondria are sometimes called the powerhouses of the cell, and that name is a good one. But they are also, in a sense, the cell's tiny lanterns. The light they help generate is a byproduct of their work, a small exhale of energy after the deep breath of metabolism, a consequence of the burning. Think for a moment about mitochondria and what they are. They are ancient, far older than any human, far older than any animal or plant, older in their basic design than almost anything else alive on Earth today. Scientists believe that more than 1 billion years ago, mitochondria were once independent bacteria, separate living creatures swimming in the ancient oceans of the early Earth. Over an immense stretch of time, through a process that was likely slow and accidental and ultimately transformative, these bacteria were absorbed into larger cells. Instead of being destroyed, they were kept. They became partners. They became essential. And eventually, they became a permanent part of every cell in every complex living thing on Earth. in you, in every plant, in every animal, in every fungus. The mitochondria inside your cells today still carry their own DNA, separate and distinct from the DNA in the cell's nucleus. That separate DNA is a memory, a fossil record of those ancient bacteria and their independent existence. They are, in a very real sense, the oldest living things inside you. Older than your species, older than your ancestors, and they glow. The oldest things in you are also the things that make your light. There is something deeply comforting in that. The light your body produces tonight connects you in a quiet and roundabout way to the earliest chapters of life on Earth. The chemistry is ancient. The light is ancient. The process that generates your biophotons has been occurring in various forms for longer than the continents have been in their current shapes, longer than the dinosaurs lived, longer than almost anything you can easily imagine. And here you are, carrying it forward through time, resting quietly in the dark, glowing with the light of 1 billion years. Let your breath slow a little now. There is no hurry here. The night is long and soft and entirely yours. We are in no rush at all. Scientists have long wondered whether the biophotons your body produces might have a function beyond simply being a byproduct of chemistry. The question seems almost too extraordinary to ask, and yet it is a good scientific question. And good scientific questions deserve to be asked, however strange they seem. Some researchers have proposed that cells might actually use this light to communicate with one another, sending photons as signals across the distances between cells, the way neurons send electrical pulses down long branching pathways. This idea is still gathering its evidence, still being tested with careful experiments in quiet laboratories. But there is early, intriguing research suggesting that biophotons can travel along certain structures inside cells and between cells, perhaps carrying information of some kind. If this is true, and it is still a very open question, then the light inside you is not just a side effect of being alive. It is part of how you are alive, part of the conversation your body is always having with itself, the ongoing, extraordinarily complex dialogue between trillions of cells, all working together to make you whole. Every heartbeat, every breath, every flicker of a dream, perhaps threaded through in some small and subtle way with light. The idea of light moving through the nervous system is among the most intriguing possibilities in this young field of research. Nerve cells, or neurons, are surrounded by a fatty sheath called myelin. Myelin acts as insulation, allowing electrical signals to move quickly and efficiently along the nerve. But some researchers have suggested that this same myelin sheath might also act as a kind of fiber optic cable for light, allowing biophotons to travel along its length as a secondary channel of communication, alongside the electrical signals we already understand quite well. This is a gentle hypothesis still being tested, still waiting for the full weight of evidence. But it offers a quietly breathtaking vision of the brain and nervous system, not just as a vast electrical network, but as something luminous, lit from within, a structure through which both electricity and light move together in their different ways, carrying the information that makes you who you are. If you are finding something magical in tonight's story, we would love it if you left a comment below. Just a word, just a thought, whatever comes to mind as you drift. It means so much to hear from you. Plants, too, produce biophotons. So do bacteria, fungi, and every animal that has been carefully studied. It seems that wherever there is life, wherever cells are doing their work, wherever metabolism is converting one kind of energy into another, there is this faint emanation of light. It is as if light is the signature of being alive, the quiet proof that chemistry is happening, that molecules are moving, that energy is flowing from one form into another. The whole living world is glowing all the time in a register too faint for our unaided eyes to detect. The forest at midnight is full of this light. The ocean floor is full of it. The soil beneath your feet is full of it. And so are you. When you look at a firefly on a summer evening, drifting through the warm dark between the trees, you are watching a creature that has taken the basic chemistry of biophoton production and amplified it into something remarkable, bright enough to see, controlled enough to use as a signal, beautiful enough to stop you in your tracks. The firefly has evolved a specific enzyme called luciferase, which reacts with a molecule called luciferin to produce a flash of greenish-yellow light. The firefly can control this reaction, turning it on and off with precision, using the light to find a mate, to communicate, to participate in the soft glamour of summer nights. Your body has the same basic chemistry, just quieter, just more private. The luciferase-luciferin reaction that lights the firefly is related in its deep chemistry to the reactions that produce your own biophotons. The connection is not exact. Your cells do not produce luciferin the way a firefly does. But both processes are rooted in the same ancient relationship between oxygen, organic molecules, and light. The firefly took that relationship and turned it into language. Your body keeps it as a whisper. The name luciferin comes from the Latin word Lucifer, meaning light bearer. It is a beautiful name for a beautiful molecule. In the world of chemistry, it has no other associations. It is simply a word for something that carries light, something that makes light possible. And while your body does not produce luciferin, it produces its own family of light-releasing molecules, each one a tiny lantern in the cellular dark, going about its quiet work in every cell, in every organ, in every moment, whether you are awake or dreaming. In the ocean, bioluminescence is everywhere, in a way that takes the breath away if you let yourself think about it. Jellyfish carry light in their trailing tendrils. Deep-sea fish dangle luminous lures in the absolute darkness of the abyssal zone, drawing prey toward a glow they cannot resist. Certain species of squid produce light from thousands of tiny structures on their skin. And the plankton, the innumerable microscopic organisms that drift in the surface waters of every ocean, produce a blue-green light when disturbed, causing waves and boat wakes and the footprints of people walking on the beach to shimmer with a soft, cold fire. All of this light across all these species comes from chemistry, from molecules reacting with other molecules, releasing energy as photons, from life finding its way to light over and over in 100 different shapes and strategies. Your own light is part of this great family of living luminescence, the quietest member, the most retiring, the most interior, but part of it nonetheless. There have been careful experiments in which researchers grew human cells in laboratory dishes and measured the biophotons they emitted. They found something that stayed with them. The healthier the cells, the more organized and coherent the light they produced. Cells under stress, or cells that were aging or compromised, emitted light in a more scattered and irregular way. Healthy, vital cells produced a light that was, in some measurable sense, more ordered. This suggests that biophoton emission might someday become a gentle, non-invasive way of reading the body's own light, of learning something true about what is happening inside the cells from the quality of the light coming out. A window into the body made of light. Let yourself breathe again, in through the nose, slow and easy, feeling your chest rise, out through the mouth like a soft wind moving through an open window in a warm evening. You are healthy. You are resting. And right now, the light your cells are producing is settling into its own quiet rhythm, easy and peaceful and perfectly arranged. Coherence is an interesting word in the context of light. In physics, coherent light is light in which all the waves move together in perfect synchrony, like a choir in which every voice hits the same note at exactly the same moment, the sound rising pure and strong. Laser light is coherent. Ordinary light from a lamp or a candle is not. It is a jumble of different wavelengths and phases, each photon going its own way. Some researchers have proposed that biophotons might carry a degree of coherence, that the light produced by living cells might be more organized than random noise. This remains one of the more debated ideas in the field, not yet fully established, still being tested and examined. But it is a beautiful possibility. The idea that the light inside you is not chaos, but something more like order, more like signal, more like a conversation. There is a phenomenon called delayed luminescence, which is different from the steady, low-level biophoton emission we have been exploring together. When living tissue is exposed to a bright flash of light, it absorbs that light and then releases it slowly over time, much more slowly and more gradually than a non-living material would. A rock or a piece of glass exposed to the same flash would release its light almost instantly. But living tissue holds it. It draws the light in and lets it out gradually, over seconds, like the slow release of a held breath. This delayed release of light is another signature of living systems, another quiet proof that life has a particular and distinctive relationship with light, a warmth toward it, a tendency to hold it close, to keep it a little longer before releasing it back into the world. Some researchers have used this phenomenon as a way to assess the vitality of biological samples. The more alive and organized the tissue, the more coherent and sustained its delayed luminescence tends to be. It is as if life, in all its forms, is reluctant to let the light go. You hold the light. Your cells hold it. Right now, in the darkness of your room, your body is holding the light it gathered today, from the sun, from the lamps, from the soft glow of screens, and releasing it in its own slow, tender way. You are lit from within by the light of the day that has just ended. We hope you are feeling warm and comfortable right now. If you have been exploring this channel for a while, you might like to check out our playlist. There are many more journeys there, each one made for exactly this moment, for exactly this kind of quiet night. Some researchers have looked at whether emotions and mental states affect biophoton emissions. This is a sensitive area of research, and the findings are preliminary, the evidence still accumulating. But some studies have suggested that stress and agitation might alter the pattern of light produced by the body, making it less organized, more scattered. Conversely, states of calm and rest, like the one you are gently moving toward right now, might be associated with a different quality of glow, more settled, more coherent, more like the light of a body that knows it is safe. Your body knows when you are at peace. It knows it in ways you cannot consciously track, in the slowing of your heart, in the relaxing of your muscles, in the settling of your breath, in the particular chemistry of your cells as the stress hormones ebb and the rest hormones rise, and perhaps in the quality of the light your cells produce. Perhaps you glow a little differently in peace than you do in worry. Perhaps, in the most literal and scientific sense, you are brighter when you are at rest. The surface of the skin is where most biophotons finally make their escape into the world after their long journey from deep inside the cell through layer after layer of tissue. But the skin is also a remarkable filter. The layers of the epidermis, the dermis beneath it, the fat and connective tissue below that, all of these absorb many of the photons produced deeper inside the body before they can reach the surface. Only a fraction of the light generated internally actually makes it through. Most of it is absorbed, its energy going into warming the tissue slightly, into being used by other molecules along the way. The skin, then, is like a quiet guardian of your inner light. It holds most of it in, allows only a whisper of it through, and releases that whisper into the air around you. What you emit is the gentlest possible remnant of a much larger, deeper glow, like the light that filters through heavy curtains in a room where a lamp is burning softly. You know the lamp is there. You can sense the warmth of it, but the curtains soften it, contain it, make it intimate rather than exposed. This makes the body a kind of lantern, one lit from the inside, its light diffused and gentled by the layers it passes through before reaching the air. Not a searchlight, not a beacon aimed at the world, just a soft, ambient glow, the way a paper lantern holds its candle, spreading the light into something warm and diffuse, something that feels like comfort rather than brilliance. There are places on the body where the skin is thinner, where more light can make its way through. The face, the hands, the inner wrists, the skin around the eyes. Researchers have noted that biophoton emissions tend to be stronger from these areas. This makes sense, given the thinner tissue and the greater proximity of the light-producing cells to the surface. The face, in particular, is often found to be among the brightest glowing regions of the body. And there is something quietly lovely in that thought, that the part of you most visible to the world, the part that carries your expressions and your gaze, the part that people recognize as unmistakably you, is also the part that glows most clearly. In many spiritual and artistic traditions across the long history of human civilization, there is the concept of an aura or a halo, a glow or radiance surrounding a person, particularly a holy or enlightened person, visible to those with heightened perception. This idea appears in medieval Christian paintings where saints are depicted surrounded by golden light, their faces bright against the dark backgrounds of tempera and gold leaf. It appears in Hindu and Buddhist art, in the luminous circles behind the heads of bodhisattvas, in the flames of light that surround images of divine figures. It appears in descriptions of mystical experiences across many cultures and many centuries. Science does not support the idea that human beings have an aura in the sense these traditions describe, a glow visible to the ordinary eye, carrying information about the soul. But the fact that the body genuinely does produce a faint, real, measurable light, centered partly around the face and head, strongest precisely in the places where spiritual traditions have always depicted the glow, is one of those places where the poetic and the scientific find themselves unexpectedly close to each other. Not the same thing, but rhyming somehow, touching the same truth from different directions. We would love to know which part of tonight's journey has felt most like a discovery for you. Leave a comment if you feel like it. We read everyone, and they are such a gift. Let your body be heavy now. Let the mattress or the cushion or the floor hold you completely. You do not need to hold yourself up. You never did, not really. The ground is always there, always ready to carry you. Let it do its work. The study of biophotons overlaps in interesting ways with a field called quantum biology, a young and genuinely fascinating area of science that explores how quantum mechanical processes might play a role in the chemistry of living things. Quantum mechanics is the physics of the very small, the world of atoms and subatomic particles, where the ordinary rules of everyday physics no longer apply, where particles can exist in multiple states at once, where light can behave as both a wave and a particle depending on how it is observed. For most of the 20th century, scientists assumed that quantum effects were confined to the realm of physics and chemistry, and that biology, the wet, warm, noisy world of living cells, was too complex and too chaotic for quantum effects to play any meaningful role. But evidence has been accumulating carefully and slowly that this assumption may be incomplete. There is now strong evidence that quantum effects are involved in the process of photosynthesis in plants, that plants, in capturing the energy of sunlight and converting it into chemical energy, make use of a quantum process that allows the energy to explore multiple pathways simultaneously before settling on the most efficient one. There is evidence that migratory birds navigate using a quantum compass in their eyes, sensitive to the Earth's magnetic field in a way that depends on quantum mechanics. And the question of whether quantum effects play a role in biophoton production and potential cellular communication is open, intriguing, and not yet answered. The universe is stranger and more beautiful than it appears from the outside. At the level of atoms and molecules, the world does not behave the way our intuitions expect. Things happen there that seem almost impossible. Particles that are entangled across distances, energy that jumps without crossing the space in between, light that chooses its nature based on how it is observed. That this deep strangeness might be quietly operating inside your cells as part of the chemistry that makes you alive and makes you glow. This is one of those ideas that is both scientifically genuine and somehow dreamlike, both rigorous and magical, both true and astonishing. You carry some of that strangeness inside you. You always have. The body's glow changes with the seasons too. In studies conducted across different times of year, researchers found variations in biophoton emission that correspond to the changing quality and quantity of daylight. In the long, bright days of summer, certain patterns of emission are different from those in the shorter, dimmer days of winter. The body, it seems, is not just a creature that responds to the presence of light. It mirrors the light of its season in the light it produces. The rhythms of the sun become the rhythms of the cell. The year's long breath becomes your own quiet breath. This is such a gentle idea, that you are not sealed off from the world around you, not just walking through the light of the seasons without being changed by it. The light touches you and changes you all the way down to the chemistry of your cells. And then, in the faintest possible echo, your cells send that light back out again, changed, quieted, made personal and intimate. The sun's light becomes your light. The year's light becomes your light. You are part of the same great luminous turning. There is something that happens inside a living cell that scientists describe with a particular kind of quiet awe, and it is called the electron transport chain. It sounds technical, and in its details it is, but in its essence, it is one of the most beautiful processes in all of biology. Imagine a tiny machine built from proteins, embedded in the inner membrane of a mitochondrion. Electrons, the small, negatively charged particles that surround the nucleus of every atom, are passed along this machine from one protein to the next, like a bucket brigade passing water along a line. As the electrons move, they release energy. That energy is used to pump tiny charged particles across a membrane, building up a kind of pressure like water behind a dam. And when that pressure is released through another protein, it powers the production of ATP, adenosine triphosphate, the molecule that cells use as their universal currency of energy. The electron transport chain is happening in your mitochondria right now. It has been happening continuously since you were born. It is the process that powers every movement you have ever made, every thought you have ever had, every heartbeat and breath. And as the electrons move along the chain, as the energy is released and captured and transferred, some of it escapes as light. A biophoton released from the membrane of a mitochondrion, traveling outward through the cell and eventually through the skin into the room where you are resting tonight. That photon carries the memory of its origin, not in any mystical sense, but in the sense that its existence is a direct consequence of the work happening inside your cells. It is a small exhale of energy released at the end of a long and elegant chain of chemistry. It is, in a way, the echo of your metabolism, the sound the engine makes, the light the candle gives off while it does its work. Your cells produce ATP constantly, hundreds of kilograms of it over the course of a year, though the same molecules are recycled over and over again. The process is continuous, relentless, beautiful in its efficiency. And the biophotons released in the course of this production are equally continuous. They do not stop when you sleep. They do not stop between heartbeats. They are part of the constant flowing work of being you. Let your breath move slowly, in and out, in and out. With each breath, you are supplying your cells with the oxygen they need to run the electron transport chain. With each exhale, you are releasing carbon dioxide, the waste product of the process. The chemistry is always happening, always cycling, always maintaining the gentle equilibrium of life. And in the quiet background of all of it, the light continues. Researchers who study biophotons often describe the experience of working in this field with a particular kind of warmth. They speak of the strange privilege of seeing, for the first time, the glow of a living hand in a darkened room. of watching the data accumulate on a screen that translates photon counts into false color images. This area glowing more brightly, that area glowing less, the whole image shifting as the person breathes or moves or simply rests. There is something about seeing the body's own light, so faint and so real at the same time, that moves people. That makes scientists pause in their careful work and feel something that is harder to name than the data in front of them. We are so glad you are here with us tonight. If you haven't already, do leave a like on this video. It is such a simple thing, and it means the world to this quiet little channel. The first systematic photographs of human biophoton emission were taken by researchers at Tohoku University in Japan in the 1980s. They used a specialized camera, cooled to extremely low temperatures to reduce the noise of the camera's own thermal emissions, and they placed their subjects in a lightless room for several hours before taking measurements. The waiting was important. The camera needed time to settle, and the subjects needed time to relax into the darkness, to let their bodies forget about performance and simply be. What emerged from those early experiments was not dramatic. The images, when they appeared, were dim and soft, their colors the artifact of the data processing rather than any actual color in the light. But they were unmistakable. A human form glowing faintly, the glow slightly stronger in some places than others, the pattern shifting with the time of day. The researchers described the experience of seeing those first images with a simplicity that somehow said everything. They were seeing a person glow. That was all. That was everything. In the decades since those early experiments, the technology has improved enormously. Cameras have become more sensitive. Data processing has become more sophisticated. And the pictures that emerge from modern biophoton studies are more detailed, more nuanced, more revealing of the body's inner rhythms than anything the early researchers could have imagined. But the essential experience of seeing the light has not changed. There it is, a person in the dark, glowing. You might wonder, in this soft space between waking and sleep, whether you could ever see your own glow, whether there is any circumstance, any moment of darkness deep enough, any period of adjustment long enough that might allow your own eyes to catch the light your skin produces. The answer, as best science can determine, is probably not. The human visual system is remarkably sensitive, more sensitive than most people realize. On a clear, dark night, far from any artificial lights, you can detect a candle flame from a distance of many miles. Your eyes are capable of detecting a single photon under ideal conditions. But even that extraordinary sensitivity is not quite enough. The light your body produces is too faint by several orders of magnitude for your eyes to catch even in perfect darkness. It falls below the threshold of visibility. It exists in a register that is real but inaccessible to unaided human perception. And yet, there it is, real, measurable, yours. The cameras see it, the instruments capture it, the numbers confirm it. Just because you cannot see it does not make it any less present, any less part of you. The world is full of things that are real but invisible to us. Magnetic fields, radio waves, ultraviolet light, the slow movement of continents. The body's glow belongs to this family of invisible realities, the truths that are there, whether or not we have the tools to see them. There is a quality to rest that is different from any other state your body moves through. Not sleep, Not quite, not yet, but the threshold of it, the place where the body begins to slow, where thoughts become less sharp, where the boundaries between the self and the surrounding darkness begin to soften. You are approaching that place now, or perhaps you are already there, moving through it like a swimmer moving through warm water. The science we are exploring tonight lives in exactly this space, too quiet to notice when you are busy, too subtle to measure without the most careful instruments. The light of the resting body. In traditional Chinese medicine, there is a concept of qi, often translated as life force or vital energy, that is understood to flow through the body along specific pathways, nourishing the organs, sustaining the tissues, maintaining the balance between activity and rest. Practitioners of acupuncture work with these pathways, believing that the flow of qi can be influenced through precise points on the skin. Western medicine has not found qi measurable in the terms it uses, and the two traditions describe the body in very different languages. But some researchers interested in biophotons have noted something curious. The points on the body identified in traditional Chinese medicine as acupuncture points tend to correspond to areas of slightly higher biophoton emission. The correlation is not perfect, and the research is preliminary, but the overlap is intriguing. It suggests, very tentatively, that wherever these ancient traditions pointed their attention, these specific locations on the skin, these places they identified as significant through thousands of years of careful observation, something measurable may indeed be different there. Not qi, as the tradition describes it, but light. This is not evidence that traditional Chinese medicine was right in all its claims. It is simply a curiosity, a place where two very different ways of looking at the human body find themselves pointing, however approximately, at the same location. The body has been studied for a very long time in many different cultures and traditions, using many different languages. And sometimes, in the quietest and most careful way, those different languages turn out to be describing the same thing. Your body has been studied and wondered at for as long as human beings have been curious about themselves. Every tradition, every culture, every individual has looked at the body and found something remarkable there. Something that resists easy explanation. Something that goes beyond what is strictly necessary for survival. The glow is one of those things. Not necessary, perhaps, in the sense that the body could not function without it, but present, real, part of what the body is, for reasons we are still learning to understand. We would love it if you explored our playlist after tonight's story. There are so many more of these gentle journeys waiting for you there, each one a different doorway into the quiet wonders of science. Let your hands be soft. Let your fingers uncurl. There is nothing to hold on to tonight, nothing that needs holding. Everything can rest. The human body contains approximately 37 trillion cells. This number is so large that it is almost impossible to hold in the mind. It is more than the number of stars in the Milky Way galaxy, more than the number of seconds that have passed since the universe began. Each of those cells is a universe in itself, a complex self-regulating system of thousands of different molecules, all working together, all communicating, all participating in the continuous project of being you. And each of those cells is producing biophotons. Not all of them at the same rate, not all in the same way, not all with the same intensity, but each contributing its small share to the body's total luminescence. 37 trillion cells, each releasing its quiet fraction of a photon per second, all of them together producing the faint glow that a sensitive camera can detect and photograph and present as evidence of something extraordinary about being alive. The body as a whole, then, is like a galaxy of tiny lights, each one too small to see, but all of them together producing something real, something detectable, something true. In the science of thermodynamics, there is a principle sometimes called the arrow of time, the observation that in any physical process, energy tends to flow from more organized forms to less organized forms, from concentrated to dispersed, from order to disorder. This is why a hot cup of tea cools down in a cold room, why a perfume spreads through the air, why the energy of a battery eventually dissipates. In the long run, in the universe as a whole, order gives way to disorder. Heat spreads out. Light disperses. Life is the exception. Life is the extraordinary local reversal of this tendency, the improbable gathering of order in the midst of a universe that is always moving toward disorder. A living cell takes in simple molecules and transforms them into the complex organized structures of proteins and DNA and membranes. It maintains a precise internal chemistry in the face of an environment that is constantly trying to push it toward equilibrium. It repairs itself, replicates itself, and communicates with other cells to coordinate the vast project of a living body. The biophotons your body produces are, in a sense, the price of this improbability. They are the energy that escapes in the process of maintaining order, the cost of being alive, paid in light. Every photon that leaves your skin is a tiny tribute to the extraordinary work your cells do, just to keep you here, just to keep you being you. And it is worth it. Whatever the cost, it is worth it. You are worth it. Let that thought be soft, like a blanket settling over you. You are worth the extraordinary expenditure of energy and chemistry and light that being you requires. Your cells have always believed this. They have never stopped their work, not for a single second, to maintain the improbable, beautiful fact of you. There is a particular time in the daily cycle of biophoton emission that researchers have found especially interesting, and that is the period around mid-afternoon, roughly between 2 and 4 o'clock in the afternoon, in the studies that have been conducted. During this window, certain areas of the skin, particularly on the upper body and the face, tend to show a slight increase in biophoton emission. It is a small increase, barely perceptible in the data, but consistent enough to be real. Interestingly, this is also the period when many people feel a natural dip in energy, a mid-afternoon drowsiness that many cultures around the world have responded to by building a nap, a siesta, a quiet rest into the structure of the day. Whether these two phenomena are directly connected, whether the shift in biophoton emission is related to the shift in alertness, is not yet known, but the coincidence is suggestive. The body's light changes at the same time as the body's energy. They may be different expressions of the same underlying rhythm. You are not fighting any rhythm tonight. Whatever the natural rhythms of your body are doing right now, they are helping you toward rest. The biophoton emissions are settling into their quiet evening pattern. The melatonin is rising. The core body temperature is beginning its gentle nightly decline. The brain is shifting its activity, redistributing its resources, preparing for the long, restorative work of sleep. All of this is happening without your help. You do not need to manage it. You do not need to direct it or supervise it or make sure it is done correctly. Your body has been doing this every night for your entire life. It knows the way perfectly. Your only task is to let it. There are certain animals that produce biophotons in ways that have been particularly well studied, and some of the findings are unexpectedly beautiful. Mice, for example, produce biophotons from their brains, light that has been detected emanating from the heads of live mice in darkened experimental conditions. The biophoton emissions from mouse brains vary with the mouse's state of consciousness, increasing during waking and decreasing during sleep. Whether the same is true for human brains is not yet fully established. The skull is thick and absorbs most of the light before it can reach a detector outside. But the possibility is there. The possibility that your brain, even now, even as it drifts toward sleep, is producing a faint and shifting light of its own. Imagine that for a moment, very gently. The light inside your mind, not metaphorical light, real photons, born from the chemistry of thought and feeling and the slow unwinding of the day's events, moving through the tissue of your brain, traveling outward, meeting the bone of the skull, being absorbed, most of them returning their energy to the tissue, but some of them perhaps making it through, joining the quiet glow of the rest of your body, becoming part of the whole. If you are enjoying this journey, please do give the video a like. It truly helps us reach more people who are looking for a quiet place to rest. And remember, there is a whole playlist here waiting for you on other nights. The phenomenon of biophoton emission has inspired some researchers to think in new ways about what consciousness might be, not just as a product of electrical activity in neurons, but as something more complex, perhaps involving light. This is a deeply speculative area, far from any scientific consensus. Most neuroscientists do not currently believe that biophotons play a significant role in consciousness. But the questions are being asked, the possibilities are being explored, and the conversation is happening at the edge of what science currently knows. One of the more interesting ideas in this space is the concept of quantum coherence in the brain. There is some evidence, controversial and debated, that certain processes in the brain might involve quantum effects, including possibly the detection and production of light at the cellular level. If this is true, then the brain's work might be even stranger and more subtle than the already extraordinarily strange electrical network that neuroscience has mapped. But this is, for now, the frontier, the place where the solid ground of established science meets the open sea of possibility. You do not need to resolve these questions tonight. They will be there, waiting, in the morning or the year or the decade or the century, when science is ready to answer them. Tonight, all you need to know is that the questions are beautiful, that the body is beautiful, that the light is real. Rest now, a little more deeply. Let the edges of your thoughts become soft. Let the story wash over you like water over stones, smoothing, gentling, leaving everything a little more peaceful than it found it. There is research exploring whether different emotional states might produce different qualities of biophoton emission. This research is early and careful, proceeding slowly as good science should. But some studies have suggested that when people are shown images or asked to recall memories that produce strong emotional responses, particularly positive ones, memories of love or joy or deep peace, the quality of biophoton emission from the hands changes in measurable ways. It becomes more organized, more coherent, more like the light of a healthy cell and less like the light of a stressed one. This is a delicate finding, and it requires much more study before anything firm can be said. But it is the kind of finding that stays with you quietly. The idea that your emotional state is reflected in your light, that love and peace and joy might make you glow a little differently, not as a metaphor, but as a measurable physical fact, that the warmth you feel inside might express itself in the faintest and most subtle way as light. You are loved. You are peaceful. You are resting. And whatever that means for the light your cells are producing tonight, it is the most natural and the most right thing. In the history of science, there have been many moments when a finding was so unexpected, so far outside the framework of what scientists thought was possible, that it was initially dismissed or ignored. The discovery that the stomach ulcers are caused by bacteria, not stress. The discovery that the Earth's continents move. The discovery that the universe is expanding. Each of these, when first proposed, met with skepticism that ranged from polite to fierce. Each required not just new evidence, but a shift in the underlying way of seeing. The study of biophotons has had something of this quality. A finding so subtle, so far below the threshold of ordinary perception, that it has taken time for the scientific community to develop the tools and the frameworks to take it seriously. The cameras needed to be built. The protocols needed to be established. The statistics needed to be carefully worked out, and the results have been accumulating slowly and steadily in laboratories across Japan, Germany, Russia, China, and beyond. The field is still young. There is still much to learn, much to establish, much to test. But the core finding, that living cells emit biophotons, that this emission follows measurable patterns, that it responds to the state of the organism, is now well enough established to be considered scientific fact rather than speculation. You glow. The data says so. The cameras confirm it. The measurements, repeated in many different laboratories by many different researchers, agree. There is something particularly moving about the way this discovery was made. Not in a flash of insight, not in a dramatic moment of revelation, but slowly, patiently, through years of careful work in darkened rooms. Science at its best is like this: quiet, persistent, humble in the face of what it does not yet know, but confident in the value of looking carefully at what is there. The researchers who do this work describe often a particular quality of attention that it requires. To study something so faint, you must be very still. You must reduce every source of noise, every stray photon of light, every vibration or electrical interference that might obscure the signal you're looking for. You must create, as much as possible, a perfect silence in which the faint signal can be heard. And then you must wait patiently for the signal to accumulate. This is, perhaps, a good description of what you are doing right now. creating a stillness in which the quieter things can be felt, reducing the noise of the day so that something more fundamental can be heard, the body's own rhythm, the body's own light, the slow, continuous process of being alive. Let your mind be still now, the way a pond becomes still after the wind has died, the ripples smoothing out one by one, the surface becoming calm, the reflection of the sky becoming clearer as the disturbance fades. Each thought that passes through is one fewer ripple. Each breath is a little smoother than the last. We are so glad you are here tonight, in this quiet space. If you feel moved to leave a comment about the glow, about the fireflies, about whatever has touched you in tonight's story, please do. We will read it. There is a type of protein found in many different species called a cryptochrome. Cryptochromes are light-sensitive proteins, originally understood primarily as molecules involved in regulating the circadian rhythm in response to light. They are found in the retina, where they help the eye detect the quality of daylight and send signals to the brain that synchronize the body's internal clock with the cycle of day and night. They are found in plants, where they regulate growth and flowering in response to light conditions. They are found in migratory birds, where they appear to play a role in detecting the Earth's magnetic field. And they are found in the cells of many tissues throughout the body, in locations that have nothing obvious to do with sensing light. This distribution has led some researchers to wonder whether the biophotons produced inside the body might have a role in signaling through these cryptochrome proteins. Whether the body's own internally produced light might be used to regulate internal processes, to synchronize the rhythms of different tissues with each other, to maintain a kind of internal coherence that we have not previously understood. It is an extraordinary idea that your cells might not only produce light, but also detect it. That the body might be, in some subtle way, illuminated from within. Each cell capable of sensing the light produced by its neighbors, using that light as information, as signal, as part of the conversation that keeps the body synchronized and whole. Whether this is true or true in the way it is currently imagined is not yet established. The evidence is preliminary, the mechanism speculative, but it is one of those ideas that feels like it might be pointing at something real, even before the full evidence is in. It has the quality of a good hypothesis, unexpected, coherent, testable, and if true, illuminating in every sense of the word. You are a light-sensitive creature. This you already knew in the ordinary sense. You can see your eyes are attuned to the particular frequencies of electromagnetic radiation that we call visible light. Your circadian rhythm is synchronized to the cycle of daylight and dark. But perhaps you are light-sensitive in a deeper sense than this. Perhaps every cell in your body carries in its proteins a faint capacity to respond to light, including the light produced by the cells around it. Perhaps you are, all the way down to the cellular level, in conversation with light, producing it, detecting it, using it, being shaped by it. You are more luminous than you knew. Let us travel for a moment to Japan in the late 1970s. A laboratory at a university, clean and quiet. The kind of place where very careful people do very careful work. A darkened room has been prepared with extraordinary attention. Every possible source of stray light has been eliminated. every crack sealed, every window covered. The instruments have been cooled to reduce their thermal noise. The volunteer, a healthy young person, asked simply to rest in the dark and breathe, has been waiting for over an hour, allowing their body to settle, their skin to stop responding to the stress of being in an unfamiliar place. And then, very slowly, over the course of many minutes, the data begins to accumulate. Photon by photon, each one individually detected, its location and timing recorded. The computer builds an image, pixel by pixel, from the accumulated photon counts. And eventually, after enough time has passed, the image becomes visible. A soft, faint shape in the darkness, the outline of a person, glowing. The researchers looking at this image for the first time are trained scientists, accustomed to data, accustomed to measurements. They know the theory, they know what they expected to find. But seeing it, seeing the actual image, the actual glow, the actual light of a living person captured by a machine, produces something more than the satisfaction of a hypothesis confirmed. One of them later described it as the experience of seeing something true that had always been there, waiting to be seen. A fact about being human that had been invisible, not because it was hidden, but because the tools to see it had not yet been built. This is one of the deepest pleasures of science, not just the knowledge gained, but the experience of seeing something that has always been real become visible for the first time, of extending the reach of human perception beyond what the body alone can achieve, and finding there, in the newly visible world, something that speaks to the nature of existence itself. You are living at a time when many such things are becoming visible for the first time, when the tools of science are extending human perception in every direction, revealing a universe that is stranger and more beautiful and more full of light than any previous generation could have known. You are part of that revealing. Your body is part of what is being seen. If you have a friend who loves science and needs a gentle place to rest, you might share this channel with them. The playlist is always there, always waiting, always quiet. And we would love the company. The connection between light and health has been recognized in various forms for a very long time. Sunlight has been used therapeutically in many traditions. Exposure to sunlight as treatment for certain skin conditions, for low mood, for the lethargy that comes with dark winters. In modern medicine, light therapy using specific wavelengths of light is used to treat seasonal affective disorder, certain sleep disorders, and some skin conditions. The body's relationship with external light is well established and well studied, but the relationship between the body's internal light, its own biophoton production, and health is just beginning to be understood. Some research suggests that biophoton emission might be a sensitive indicator of cellular oxidative stress, the accumulation of reactive oxygen species at levels that begin to damage cellular structures rather than simply contribute to normal metabolism. Elevated biophoton emission in some studies has been associated with states of higher oxidative stress. Lower, more organized emission has been associated with healthier cellular states. If this relationship holds up under further study, biophoton measurement might eventually become a gentle, non-invasive window into the body's cellular health, not a replacement for existing diagnostic tools, but a complement to them. A way of reading the body's own light to understand what is happening inside the cells. The light your body produces, telling the story of your health in a language that science is still learning to translate. There is something beautiful about the idea of using light to understand the body. Not light shown in from outside, not X-rays or ultrasound or the bright beam of a doctor's ophthalmoscope, but the body's own light, caught and measured and read. The body describing itself in the only language it has always had, the language it has been speaking since the first cell came alive in the ancient ocean, the language of chemistry, of metabolism, of energy, of light. Let your breath be like that language, not something you have to produce or maintain, but something that happens naturally and continuously, the body doing what it knows how to do. You do not need to breathe. You are breathing. There is nothing to do. The soft dark of the room around you is full of the light you have produced today. Too faint to see, but real. Moving outward from your skin in all directions. A sphere of faint luminescence expanding at the speed of light, thinning as it goes, until it is lost in the general background of the universe. You are leaving a trace of yourself in light, in every direction, at every moment. Every person who has ever lived has left such traces. The light of all the living and all the dead, dispersed now across the universe, real and undetectable, and somehow still there. You are part of that great dispersal. Your light is joining it, even now. In the study of ecology, there is a concept called nutrient cycling. The way the elements that make up living things are passed from organism to organism, from living to non-living, and back again, in a continuous cycle that has been going on for billions of years. The carbon in your body was once part of a plant, which drew it from the air. Before that, it was part of another animal, or another plant, or part of the ocean, or part of a volcanic emission. Before that, it might have been part of a star that exploded long before our sun was born. The atoms in your body are ancient wanderers. They have been part of many things before they came together to be you, and they will be part of many things after. The calcium in your bones was once dissolved in an ancient sea. The iron in your blood was forged in the heart of a star. You are, in the most literal possible sense, made of the universe, assembled temporarily in the particular beautiful arrangement that is you. And in this same way, the light you produce is part of a larger cycle. The energy that becomes your biophotons came originally from the sun, from sunlight falling on plants, which captured it and stored it in the chemical bonds of sugar and starch, which you ate and digested, which your cells broke down to release that stored energy, which then powered the electron transport chain, which released some of that energy as light. The biophotons leaving your skin tonight carry a very faint, very indirect, very transformed echo of sunlight. The sun shines in you at many removes, in the most delicate and roundabout way. This is one of the quietly extraordinary facts about living things, that they are, at the most fundamental level, converters of light. Not just animals that see light, or warm themselves in light, or depend on light-dependent plants for their food, but converters, transformers, processors of light, taking solar energy and running it through so many stages of chemistry that it emerges finally from the other end of the process as a biophoton, barely recognizable as what it once was, but still real, still light, still a particle of electromagnetic radiation moving through space. You are a converter of sunlight. You take the energy of a star and run it through the extraordinary machinery of your cells and release it, transformed as the quietest possible glow. This is what you are doing right now. This is what you have always been doing. The night around you is quiet. If you listen carefully, you might hear your own breathing, the small sounds of a house settling, the distant sounds of the world outside. All of those sounds are accompanied, invisibly, by light. The radio waves and infrared radiation and ultraviolet light that move through everything, the ambient electromagnetic field that saturates every corner of the modern world. And in the midst of all of that, your own quiet contribution, a sphere of biophotons, too faint to measure without the most sensitive instruments, but real. Please do leave a like on this video if it has been a soft place to land tonight. It helps more than you know. There is a species of fungus found in forests in Brazil and several other tropical regions that produces a faint green glow, a real visible glow that can be seen in a dark forest at night. These glowing mushrooms have been known and wondered at for centuries, appearing in the folklore of many cultures as fairy lights or forest spirits. Their glow is produced by a bioluminescent reaction, related but not identical to the reactions in fireflies. It is a soft, steady, sustained light that serves a purpose. It appears to attract insects, which then carry the mushroom spores to new locations, spreading the fungus through the forest. The forest at night is alive with light, if you know how to see it. The glowing mushrooms, the occasional firefly, the bioluminescent bacteria on decaying wood, and, invisible to the eye but real to the instruments, the biophotons from every living creature in the forest, from the trees and the mosses and the beetles and the owls and the microbes in the soil. The dark forest is not dark, not really. It is simply lit at a frequency and an intensity that our eyes were not designed to detect. The same is true of you, resting here in what seems like darkness. You are not in darkness, not entirely. You are surrounded by the light your own body produces, and it is exactly as real as the light of a candle, just many orders of magnitude quieter. You are a creature of light, resting in a room of light, in a world of light, in a universe that has been producing light since the first second of its existence. Lean into that. Let it be something you carry lightly, something that adds to the world rather than asks anything of it. You are a source of light. You always have been. You always will be. Let your body settle now, like a stone settling into the bed of a river. The water moves over it and around it, cool and constant, and the stone rests in its own perfect stillness. That is you, resting, still, glowing. There is a quality to the light produced by living things that has fascinated researchers since the field began, and it is this: the light is not random. Not in the way that the light from a fire is random, a chaos of photons produced by an uncontrolled chemical reaction, carrying no information beyond the fact of their existence. The light produced by living cells seems to have a quality of organization that goes beyond what would be expected from simple random chemistry. The photons arrive in patterns. They vary with the state of the organism in ways that correlate with the organism's health and activity. They seem, in some early and preliminary research, to be more structured than noise. This is one of the key ideas behind the hypothesis that biophotons might carry biological information, that they might be not just a byproduct of metabolism, but a signal, a carrier of meaning, a way for cells and tissues to communicate. If the light is organized, if it follows patterns, if it correlates with biological states in meaningful ways, then it is at least possible that other cells and tissues are detecting that organization and using it, responding to the light they receive as information rather than simply absorbing it as energy. This is still, as we have noted, a hypothesis rather than an established fact. The evidence is intriguing but incomplete. The mechanism by which cells might detect such faint light, a handful of photons against a background of constant thermal noise, is not yet clear. The experiments needed to test the hypothesis rigorously are still being designed and carried out. But the hypothesis is beautiful, and it is testable, and it is being taken seriously by serious researchers. That is how science moves, not in leaps of certainty, but in careful steps from what is known toward what might be. Let your thoughts become softer now. Let them lose their urgency. There is nothing that needs to be known tonight, nothing that needs to be solved or understood or held on to. The questions will be there in the morning, patient and clear. Tonight, they can rest. There is a meditation practice found in several contemplative traditions in which practitioners are asked to visualize the body as a source of light, to imagine light emanating from the center of the chest or from the entire surface of the skin, warm and steady and gentle. This practice is sometimes used to cultivate a sense of compassion, the image of one's own light spreading outward, touching and warming the world. It is a beautiful practice, and it has been used for centuries to cultivate states of calm and kindness. What we now know from the patient work of scientists in darkened laboratories is that this visualization is not purely metaphorical. The body does emanate light. The light does spread outward from the skin. It is real. It is yours. The contemplative traditions were, in their own language, describing something true. This does not mean that the traditions and the science are saying exactly the same thing. They are not. The light of contemplative practice is a metaphor for something that cannot be measured, a quality of consciousness or intention or love. The light of biophoton research is a physical phenomenon, measurable in photons per centimeter squared per second, following the laws of thermodynamics. They are different things described by different languages pointing at different aspects of the same extraordinary organism. But they are neighbors, and it is beautiful to see them across their differences, both pointing toward the same address, the body glowing in the dark. If you are comfortable sharing this channel with someone who could use a quiet night, we would be so grateful. And the playlist is always there, a soft library of science and rest, waiting for whenever you need it. The phenomenon of biophoton emission connects, in interesting ways, to the study of antioxidants, molecules that neutralize reactive oxygen species before they can cause cellular damage. The reactive oxygen species that produce biophotons are the same molecules that, at higher concentrations, can damage DNA and proteins and contribute to aging and disease. Antioxidants found in fruits and vegetables produced by the body itself, taken as supplements, work by intercepting these reactive molecules and neutralizing them before they cause harm. When antioxidant levels are high, fewer reactive oxygen species are available to produce biophotons. When antioxidant levels are low, more reactive oxygen species accumulate, and biophoton emission increases. This relationship means that biophoton measurement might, in some circumstances, be a useful indirect measure of oxidative stress, a way of reading the balance between the forces that generate reactive oxygen species and the forces that neutralize them. The body is always managing this balance, always producing reactive oxygen species as a byproduct of energy production, always neutralizing them through its antioxidant systems, always walking the fine line between the energy needs of the cells and the protection of the cellular machinery. The light is a trace of this balance, the escaped energy of the process, the part that got away. Too much light might suggest the balance has tipped toward oxidative stress. Too little might suggest something else, the right amount, in the right pattern, at the right time of day. That is the signature of a body in equilibrium. Right now, your body is seeking its nighttime equilibrium. The metabolism is slowing. The antioxidant systems are doing their work. The reactive oxygen species are being managed, neutralized, contained, and the biophoton emission is settling into its quiet nighttime pattern, soft, organized, the light of a body at peace with itself. In the morning, after a night of sleep, the body's biophoton emission is subtly different from what it was the night before. The cells have done their repair work. The mitochondria have maintained themselves. The DNA has been checked and corrected where it needed to be. The proteins that were worn or misfolded have been recycled. The cellular machinery is, in some small but real way, newer than it was yesterday. Sleep is one of the most remarkable processes in biology, still not fully understood, despite the enormous amount of research devoted to it. But among the things that are established is this: sleep is when the body does some of its most important maintenance. The brain, during sleep, clears out metabolic waste products that accumulate during waking hours. The immune system does some of its most active work during sleep, patrolling for pathogens and responding to threats. The tissues of the body repair and renew themselves at higher rates during the night than during the day. And the biophoton emission that will come from a body that has slept well reflects this renewal. It is, by some measurements, slightly more organized, slightly more coherent, slightly more like the light of healthy, rested cells than the light of tired end-of-day cells. Sleep restores the quality of your light. Rest makes you glow more gently, more cleanly. This is one more reason to let yourself rest, not just because you are tired, not just because rest feels good, but because something real and restorative is happening while you sleep. The light of tomorrow morning is being prepared in the dark of tonight. Let your eyes grow heavy. There is nothing to see in the darkness that requires your attention. The darkness is soft and safe, and it is doing its work around you and within you, quietly and without effort. There are organisms that have evolved to live in complete darkness, in deep caves, in the ocean's abyssal zones, in the lightless tunnels beneath the soil. These creatures have, over generations, lost the eyes they no longer need. Their visual systems have simplified or disappeared entirely, resources redirected toward other senses that serve them better in the dark. But even these eyeless creatures, the cave fish, the deep-sea crustaceans, the blind millipedes of the underground, still produce biophotons. The light did not disappear with the eyes. It is not a feature of vision or of light sensing. It is a feature of being alive. This tells us something important about what biophoton emission is and is not. It is not a strategy. It is not something the organism evolved in order to do something useful with light. It is simply a consequence of being alive, of doing the chemistry of life, of maintaining the exquisite organized complexity that separates living matter from non-living. Whether the light is useful or not, whether it is detected or not, whether there are eyes to receive it or not, it is produced. It is always produced. It is irreducible. You are irreducibly luminous. Whatever else changes, your mood, your health, your sleep, your season, the time of day, you do not stop glowing. The light is not an achievement or a performance. It is a fact. Please check out our playlist when you are done tonight. There are so many more gentle journeys there, each one crafted for exactly this kind of quiet hour. And if this has been a peaceful place for you, leaving a like takes only a moment, and it means so much. The story of biophotons is, in a larger sense, a story about the relationship between physics and biology, between the world of particles and forces and fields, and the world of cells and organisms and ecosystems. For a long time, these two worlds were studied by different people using different methods and asking different questions. Physics was concerned with matter and energy at the most fundamental level. Biology was concerned with the organization of matter into living things. They used each other's findings when necessary, but they were largely separate enterprises. Quantum biology is one of the places where these two worlds are beginning to genuinely merge, where physicists and biologists are working together on questions that require both sets of tools and both sets of intuitions. Biophoton research is part of this broader movement. The questions it is asking, whether cells produce coherent light, whether they can detect single photons, whether quantum effects play a role in bioluminescent processes, are questions that require physicists' understanding of light and biologists' understanding of cells, both at once. This merging of disciplines is one of the most exciting developments in modern science. The questions at the borders between fields are often the deepest and most interesting ones. The places where the existing maps run out and the territory is genuinely unknown. Biophotons live in that territory. The cells that produce them live at the border of biology and physics, of chemistry and light, of the living and the luminous. And you are made of those cells, every one of them, every one, every moment, glowing. There is a meditation that some teachers offer their students, particularly at the end of a long day. And it goes something like this. Feel the boundary of your body, the place where you end and the world begins. Trace it slowly in your mind from the top of your head downward. The skull, the forehead, the cheeks, the jaw, the neck, the shoulders. Notice what it feels like to be inside this boundary, to be this particular shape of warmth in the world. And then, gently, imagine that boundary softening, not dissolving entirely. You're still you, still resting in this particular body, in this particular room, but softening so that the distinction between inside and outside becomes slightly more permeable, so that the warmth of your body mingles with the warmth of the air, so that the light your skin produces, that real, faint, constantly produced glow of biophotons moves easily through that softened boundary and into the world. This is not only a beautiful imagination, it is a description of something real. The boundary between you and the world is, at the molecular level, not a sharp line, but a gradual transition. The skin is a membrane, not a wall. It breathes. It exchanges molecules with the air. It holds heat while releasing heat. It protects while remaining permeable. And the biophotons pass through it continuously, each one a small ambassador from the interior to the exterior, from the living inside to the breathing world outside. You are in continuous exchange with the world. You always have been. The same breath that fills your lungs once filled a forest. The same water that flows through your cells once flowed through a river. The same light that your skin produces tonight will disperse into the room, into the house, into the night, becoming part of the ambient field of the world's own light, barely distinguishable from everything else, completely real. You do not end where your skin ends. Not really. There is a quality of this night, of this particular moment, that is worth noticing before it passes. The way your body feels in the stillness, the temperature of the air, the particular quality of the quiet. These are the conditions under which you are glowing right now. These conditions exactly, and no others. This particular configuration of you tonight in this room, producing this particular faint light. It is unique. It will never happen again in quite this way. And it is, despite everything, despite the stress of the day and the weight of the week and the questions that remain unanswered, entirely peaceful. You are so welcome here, in this channel, in this story, in this quiet science of light. Leave a comment if you like, just to say hello, just to mark this moment. We would love to know you are here. Some cultures around the world have practices and rituals centered on light. The lighting of candles, the kindling of fires, the placing of lamps in windows. These practices serve many purposes: warmth, safety, beauty, the marking of sacred time. But underlying many of them is a shared intuition that light is meaningful, that it carries something important, that the presence of light in a dark place is an assertion of something human and essential. We are light-producing creatures living in a world that we have filled with light. We burn fuels to produce light. We convert electricity to produce light. We bend and focus and color and distribute light in an endless variety of ways. Light is one of the things we most reliably reach for when we need comfort or safety or beauty. And underneath all of that cultural reaching toward light, there is the biological fact of it. We are already producing light ourselves all the time. We are the light we are reaching for. This does not mean you should be without the comforts of lamps and fires and candles. But there is something softly wonderful about knowing that even in the complete absence of external light, even in a cave, even in the deep dark of a sealed room, you would still be carrying light with you, producing it, being it. Not in any amount you could use to navigate by, not in any amount another person could see, but real. You carry your own light. You always have. The science of biophotons is continuing to develop, to grow, to ask new questions and find new answers. Research groups around the world are working on more sensitive detection methods, on better models of how the light is produced and what it might be used for. on the connections between biophoton emission and health, on the possible role of light in cellular communication and coordination. The field is young and alive and full of the particular energy that comes from being at the beginning of something important. Someday, not today, perhaps not for many years, but someday, we may understand the body's light the way we now understand electricity in the nervous system or the chemistry of hormones. We may be able to read it fluently, to know what its patterns mean, to use it as a window into the cellular world. We may find that it tells us things about health and disease that we cannot currently see any other way. We may find that it is involved in biological processes we have not yet imagined. Or we may find that it is, in the end, exactly what it appears to be: a beautiful byproduct, the exhale of the cellular breath, the glow of the candle that has no particular purpose beyond the fact of its own burning. That would be enough. That would be more than enough. The fact that your body glows, whether or not that glow serves a function beyond being beautiful, whether or not it carries information, whether or not it will ever be used in medicine or our understanding of consciousness. The fact of it, the simple, real, scientifically confirmed fact of it, is one of the more quietly extraordinary things about being a human being. You are made of ancient star stuff, assembled by 1 billion years of evolution into something that walks and breathes and thinks and loves. And you glow. The night is deep now, and your body is doing its most important work. The systems that manage wakefulness are quieting. The systems that manage repair are activating. The body temperature is settling toward its nighttime low. The breath is slower and more even than it was an hour ago. The mind, if you have been here with us for a while, is softer and less focused, drifting more than thinking, moving along the edge of sleep rather than engaging with its full machinery. This is where we want to leave you, in this beautiful borderland, not quite awake, not quite asleep. The place where the story becomes a dream, where the science becomes a feeling, where the facts dissolve into something more like warmth and peace and the particular softness of the body, surrendering to its own deep knowledge of how to rest. The biophoton researchers who study sleep, and some of them do, though the technical challenges are considerable, find that biophoton emission changes as a person moves through the stages of sleep. In the lightest stages, the emission pattern is closest to what it is during calm, relaxed wakefulness. As sleep deepens, as the body moves into the stages of slow-wave sleep, where the most restorative processes take place, the emission pattern shifts. It becomes quieter, more organized, the light of a body that is truly let go. And in the stage of sleep associated with dreaming, REM sleep, with its rapid eye movements and vivid imagery, the biophoton emission shifts again. The brain is more active in REM sleep than in any other sleep stage, doing the complex, creative, mysterious work of dream generation. Whether that increased brain activity shows up in measurable changes in biophoton emission is still being investigated. But the possibility is there. The dream might have a light of its own. Your dreams, if you have them tonight, will be made of chemistry, of neurons firing in patterns shaped by the day's experiences and the mind's own deep processing, of the body's internal signals being interpreted by a brain that is no longer constrained by the world outside. Dreams are the mind's own light show, vivid, strange, emotionally resonant, and entirely generated from within. They are biophotons of another kind, in a manner of speaking. Light produced by the machinery of the brain, creating a world that exists only in the interior. Let your dreams be gentle tonight. Let them carry you somewhere warm and interesting and safe. The dream world is yours to move through freely, without obligation, without weight. We are nearly at the end of our time together tonight, and we want to say, very simply, that we are glad you were here. If you have been finding a place to rest in this channel, please do like the video and share it with someone who might need a quiet night. And the playlist is there, always, for every night that needs a gentle companion. There is a last fact about biophotons that feels like the right one to end on, or nearly end on, and it is this. Biophoton emission from the human body is brightest during the day and quietest at night. The daytime is when metabolism is highest, when cells are most active, when the production of reactive oxygen species is at its peak. The night is when everything settles, when the cellular engines throttle back, when the antioxidant systems have time to catch up, when the biophoton emission is at its lowest and most peaceful. Right now, at whatever hour this is for you, your glow is in its nighttime configuration, the quietest version of your light, the most peaceful version of your cellular chemistry, the version that says, rest, repair, renew. The version that is making way for the morning, which will bring its own increase in light and activity and all the beauty of a new day. But that is the morning, and the morning is far away. Right now, there is only the night, and the quiet and the slow, patient work of your cells, and the faint, real, beautiful glow of your body resting in the dark. You are luminous, you are ancient, you are made of stars and water and time. You are, in the gentlest and most scientific sense, a light in the world. Not because of anything you have done or achieved or proven, simply because you are alive, simply because you are here. Let that be enough tonight. Let that be everything. The room around you is very quiet now. The night has deepened while we have been traveling together through this soft science of light, and the world outside has settled into its own nighttime stillness. The city or the country or the suburb beyond your walls is quieter than it was an hour ago, and even that quiet is quieter than it was an hour before that. The night moves toward its deepest point, and you move with it. Your body is a universe of its own, 37 trillion cells, each one a city of molecules, each molecule a community of atoms, each atom a small solar system of electrons and a nucleus. All of it moving all the time in a dance so intricate and so continuous that no mind could ever fully hold it. And at every level of that dance, from the movement of electrons along the protein chains of the mitochondria, to the movement of oxygen through the bloodstream, to the movement of thoughts through the neural networks of the brain, there is light, a consequence of the dance, a sign that the dance is happening. The exhaled breath of chemistry turned to photons, turned to the quiet glow of a living body in the dark. You have been glowing all your life. You were glowing the day you were born, wrapped in the warmth of your first breathing, your cells already busy with the work of being alive, already releasing their quiet light. You have been glowing through every ordinary and extraordinary moment of your life since then, through joy and sorrow, through sleep and waking, through the seasons and the years. The glow has never stopped. It has never needed to stop. It is not something you produce by trying. It is something you are, and you are it now, in this moment, in this room, in this soft and peaceful dark. There is nothing left to think about tonight. There is nothing that needs resolving or understanding or holding in the mind. The science has been absorbed gently through the open ears of a resting mind, and it will settle into something wordless and warm by morning. Not a list of facts, but a feeling. The feeling of knowing yourself to be a glowing creature. The feeling of knowing that the light you carry is ancient and real and beautiful. The feeling of being, in the most scientific and the most tender sense, part of the luminous universe. We are so grateful you came here tonight. We are so grateful for every comment left, every like given, every quiet hour spent in this corner of the internet, where science and sleep meet each other and become friends. If tonight has been good for you, the playlist is there for every other night that needs a gentle place to land. There are stories about the deep ocean, about the lives of trees, about the way stars are born and die, about the mathematics of snowflakes and the physics of ice. Each one made for this, for the space between waking and sleep, for the hour when the mind is soft enough to let the beautiful things in. But for tonight, we are here in this story, in this glow. Let your eyes close if they haven't already. Let the darkness behind your eyelids be a comfortable and familiar place, your own private dark, lit only by the very faintest light of your own making. The photons from your cells, those tiny ancient particles of energy born from the chemistry of breathing and eating and being, are moving through the darkness of your body even now, making their way outward, contributing their infinitesimal amount to the glow of a resting person in a quiet room on a peaceful night. The warmth you feel is real. The weight of your body in rest is real. The breath that moves in and out without any effort from you is real. And the light, the soft, unmeasurable, scientifically confirmed, quietly extraordinary light of your living body is real. All of it is real. All of it is you. There is nothing more to know tonight, nothing more to carry. The questions can rest until morning. The worries can wait. The things that felt heavy when the day began have been here the whole time, and they will be here in the morning, but they do not need you now. Right now, they can simply exist without requiring anything, the way distant mountains exist in the landscape, real, present, not going anywhere, and asking nothing of you in this moment. You are here. You are breathing. You are warm. You are glowing in the quietest and most real way. The way all living things glow, the way life itself has been glowing since the first cell arose in the early ocean and began its patient, ancient, extraordinary work. Let that be the last thought for now. The glow, the warmth, the ancient chemistry, the peace. Sleep is close. It is right there at the edge of this sentence, in the space between one breath and the next. You do not need to go looking for it. It will come to you as it always does, as it always has, gentle and sure and complete. The light continues even in sleep. It always continues. Soft and steady and entirely yours. Good night. Rest well, and we will see you gently glowing on the other side of sleep.